Welcome back to 843 TV. Joining us now is Mark Hyner, another one of the wonderful residents here in Colleton River. So Mark, why don't you give us a little bit of your history, where you come from, what brought you here?
I am ex-Yankee. I was born and raised in Connecticut, lived all my life there, as did my wife Marilyn. And we arrived here 16 years ago in Colleton, built our house then, but we've been coming to the Low Country for approximately 40 years. Started in Sea Pines actually, and still actually own timeshare in Sea Pines, and we came every single summer up until we moved here. Now we just live here.
Yeah, it's not an uncommon story. Whenever I meet people who are visiting here, I always say, you know, it gets to be a habit, and eventually you live here. So.
Absolutely.
I tell people it was like, after looking around the country at places to live, this was like putting on an old comfortable pair of jeans.
There you go, there you go. With all the different activities to do, we've talked to some guests who love golf, some tennis, but you've got another favorite. Share with us about that.
Well, I came here, as most people did, because of the golf. And one of the things that I knew I was giving up, which I did a lot of in Connecticut, was trout fishing. And in the streams and so on with a fly rod. And when I got here, I knew that wasn't going to happen, at least for trout in the Low Country. And then after a while, I discovered there are redfish out here. And then I discovered that redfish on certain high tides come into the flats, and they have their tails sticking up, and you're in about a foot and a half, 2 feet of water. And it's kind of, if people have ever fished for bonefish, it's very similar kind of activity. And once I discovered that, it was
A whole new world of fishing for you.
That became #1 activity. Just like in Connecticut, fishing was my #1 activity, and now it is here again.
Well, and we happen to be a little bit of a kindred spirit, and I know I can picture in my head exactly the vessel you fish from, but our audience may not. Tell us a little bit about the exact type of fishing that you do.
Well, these rivers are tidal. They don't have a freshwater source. They're driven by the tide, and our tide here moves anywhere between 7 and 9 feet of water. So when the moon is right and you get higher tides, as right now as a matter of fact, the flats along these rivers, which don't have water in them most of the time, will flood on those spring tides. When that happens, the redfish come in to eat the fiddler crabs and shrimp that get up in there. And for them it becomes a bit of a feeding frenzy, and I get my kayak and kind of drag it through the mud until as before the tide. And then as the tide comes in, I start moving around these flats looking for tailing redfish, see one, anchor the kayak, and very stealthily, hopefully, get out of the kayak and stalk them on foot. And if you get the fly in front of them the right way, they're going to eat it. And then it's a load of fun.
Now, it's amazing to listen, because there really is an educational process to get to know around here with the tide changes and all the things you're mentioning. So it sounds like you've gotten involved with a program, the Naturalist program. Share with us a little bit about that.
Well, I've always been an outdoors kind of person. I'm an avid bird watcher. One of the things I do here is I run our Christmas Audubon bird count. And so I'm involved in that, but along with all of that, I found out about the Master Naturalist program out of Spring Island, and decided I would take that course. And after taking that course, which ran, I don't know, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it is, I never looked at the Low Country the same way again. You just develop an appreciation for things here.
It's my opinion that everybody who lives here should take it. I mean, and it's become very popular. There's a huge waiting list, I know. And is it run through Clemson, I believe?
Yeah, it's part of Clemson's.
Yep, that's right.
Share a little bit more about that for those who that might pique an interest for them.
Well, when you go, you get this stack of books about yay high, and you get into learning about all the different trees we have here. Wasn't one of my favorite subjects, but I did it. You learn a lot about the marsh and the Spartina grass and the whole incredible life cycle that occurs out here, and how it affects all the rest of the oceans in the Low Country. And you learn about oysters and the whole thing. It's just amazing.
It's happening right behind us as we
Exactly.
speak.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, you talk about the stack of books, but a fair amount of the course is done in the field. I mean, you get out and experience everything, right?
Yeah, we went to some really fantastic places, and as a birder, some of the places we went to were just terrific. But I have to say, bird watching right here in Colleton is pretty special, and there are a lot of species, and I just love it.
Have you gotten any roseate spoonbills this summer?
I actually had, for the first time this summer, first time since I've been here, I had a pair of roseate spoonbills in the marsh behind my house.
Oh,
so I was
how
really,
exciting
I was
to
happy
watch.
about that. Out on the dye course, there's a tree in an area where you see them frequently.
very cool. Very cool.
Well, we hear that there might be some interesting social events that might just pop up on the dock when you're coming in. Tell us about that. Great way to end a day.
There's the kayaking that happens here, and you've already heard about that. But also, and I've forgotten even which nights, but you know, friends call friends, and the next thing you know, you come down here and you've got a little buffet set up, and you bring some cocktails.
Wow,
and
great way
you
to
sit
end the
here
day.
and enjoy the evening and watch the sunset, and it's
Oh.
pretty special.
You're right. Not a better way to end the day.
Absolutely.
is.
You have to come up with like a Colleton River sunset cocktail, or maybe you guys
Well,
already have.
they actually have some of these events that happen, but inventing a cocktail is not a bad idea.
Well, Mark, it sounds intriguing. We're blessed because we're already here. But for those of you who are not, think about all that and stay right here. We'll be back with more 843 TV.